She failed her father. She failed the army. She failed all of us. That's what Erica said, loud enough for the whole backyard to hear, just as Colleen Walsh stepped into her own father's memorial. At her father's memorial, Colleen arrives unannounced, just in time to hear Erica mocking her as the family disgrace. The words drift through the open sliding glass doors like smoke, acrid and impossible to ignore. The backyard is full of mourners dressed in charcoal tones, scattered among round tables with white linen and crystal pitchers of lemonade sweating in the August heat. A breeze shifts the floral arrangements. From the porch, Erica's voice rings out with practiced ease. She won't come, obviously. Colleen only shows up when there's drama to feed on. She probably thinks a funeral is her stage. No one laughs, but no one stops her either. Colleen steps onto the lawn without a word. The grass crunches faintly under her boots, military but nondescript. Her outfit is simple. Slacks, a cream blouse, blazer too formal for a backyard but too plain for vanity. Her hair is pinned in a low bun. Her face unreadable. She walks past the group in silence. Conversations falter. Some guests glance, others turn their backs. Erica catches sight of her and blinks. Then, with a grin too wide, she raises her voice for the crowd. Look what the cat dragged in. The phantom sister. I guess miracles do happen. Colleen doesn't flinch. Her eyes flick once over the attendees, lingering on the mantel inside, where a framed portrait of their father sits surrounded by medals and folded letters. Then she looks to Erica. Some medals, she says softly, aren't made of gold. The words hang in the air like morning fog, thin but chilling. Mrs. Walsh appears in the doorway, arms crossed. You didn't tell anyone you were coming? How typical, she says. There's no hug, no smile, just a tight line of disapproval on her lips like she's waiting for Colleen to apologize for existing. I came to pay my respects, Colleen says calmly. Nothing more. You forfeited that right when you vanished. Erica snaps, stepping forward. She's wearing a sleek black dress that hugs her frame and heels that sink slightly into the grass. Her voice sharpens. You failed, Dad. You failed the army. You failed us. The crowd shifts uncomfortably, sensing the escalation but doing nothing to stop it. Colleen doesn't respond with anger. She simply nods once, then turns toward the house. Inside, the family mantle is arranged like a shrine. Photos of Erica in college robes, of family vacations, of Mr. Walsh in uniform. But nowhere is there a single image of Colleen. On the far left corner sits the folded American flag from the military service earlier that morning. Tucked beside it is a brass nameplate. Major Thomas Walsh. Devoted father, hero. Colleen stands before it in silence. Her reflection flickers in the glass of the frame. You lied, Dad, she murmurs. Her voice is low, almost tender, but the words cut like glass. She turns and walks out of the house without another glance. Eyes follow her, but no one calls her back. Outside, the wind catches the hem of her blazer. She walks alone down the front path, away from the family that erased her, but not for long. 20 years ago, a young Colleen received a call that shattered her world. Her mother had told the family she's disappeared. It was just past midnight at the deployment base. Outside, the sand blew in steady gusts, tapping against the corrugated steel of the dormitory walls like impatient fingers. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead, pale and relentless. Colleen sat at her small desk, hands smudged with graphite from the notes she had been reviewing. Her bun was tight, uniform impeccable, the name tag on her chest catching the light. Lieutenant Colleen Walsh. The phone buzzed once, then again. A direct line, restricted. She answered with crisp precision. Lieutenant Walsh speaking. Colleen? The voice on the other end was unmistakable. Cold, tight, and unmistakably maternal. It's your mother. Colleen's spine straightened. Her heart pounded. This wasn't protocol. This wasn't normal. Dad's in the hospital, her mother continued, as if reading a grocery list. It's serious. He might not... Well, you know how these things go. A beat of silence. I'll request emergency leave, Colleen said quickly. I'll be on the first flight out. There's no time for you to sort through all that red tape, her mother interrupted. If you wanted to be here, you would have chosen a different career. The line went dead before Colleen could reply. She stared at the receiver for a long time, as if the signal might carry meaning her mother's words had refused to offer. Then came the knock. Her captain, grizzled, firm, dependable, stood in the doorway, arms crossed. I heard, he said. I'll file the request, but we both know how this goes. You're deep in blackout protocol. I can't just stay, she said, her voice cracking for the first time in months. You knew what you were signing up for, he said gently, stepping aside. Sometimes the hardest part of service is what it costs you. 2 days later, her request was denied. 3 days later, she watched the encrypted satellite feed of the funeral. Mr. Walsh's coffin, draped in the flag. Erica's face, tear-streaked. Her mother standing stiff as iron. And her name, her face, never spoken, never acknowledged. The base chaplain handed her an envelope weeks later. A letter. From Erica. You didn't even try. You left us. You abandoned Dad. Don't ever come back. Colleen read it in the dim glow of the barracks. Her hands trembled. That night, she called the family landline. Her mother picked up on the first ring. I was denied leave, Colleen said without preamble. I didn't refuse to come. You didn't fight hard enough, her mother snapped. You made your choice when you ran off to play soldier instead of being a daughter. That's not fair. It's reality. Don't expect sympathy now. The silence after was heavier than the sandstorms outside. Colleen hung up. She sat for hours on her bunk, the letter from Erica folded beside her. The words stung worse than bullets. Then, without ceremony, she struck a match. The flame flickered against the metal bed frame as the paper curled into ash. If I ever come back, she whispered, it won't be as your sister. She watched the embers die out, the room silent but for the wind rattling the window. Somewhere in her chest, something hardened, and would never quite soften again. Colleen visits her father's grave alone at dawn and finds someone has scratched her name off the family plaque. The sun had yet to crest the horizon. Fog clung low over the manicured lawns of the suburban cemetery, softening the edges of headstones and muting the sound of morning birds. Colleen's boots pressed into the damp grass with steady purpose as she made her way along the path, hands in the pockets of her dark coat. Row after row of polished granite passed by. She barely looked. Her steps had memorized this route years ago. Section B, row 9, plot 24. Her father's headstone stood clean and proud. The flag motif carved into its corner was sharp, recently tended. Beneath his name, Major Thomas Walsh, 1952 to 2004, was a bronze family plaque. It was meant to honor his legacy. In memory of a father whose strength lived on in his daughters. Colleen knelt. Her fingers brushed the plaque, then froze. Her name, once engraved beside Erica's, was gone. Not missing, scratched out. There, beneath the quote, only one name now remained, Erica Walsh. A harsh gouge of metal had obliterated Colleen, leaving behind a warped smudge, as if the name had never belonged. The cold sank deeper into her skin than the dawn ever could. She sat back slowly, lips pressing into a hard line. Her breath left in clouds, small and controlled. Behind her, gravel crunched. The groundskeeper, mid-50s, in coveralls with a thermos of coffee in hand, approached with hesitant eyes. Didn't expect anyone this early, he said. You're the other daughter, ain't you? Colleen didn't respond. He took a sip, squinting at the headstone. The younger one comes more often. Pretty thing. Always brings those white lilies. He pointed to a wilted bouquet at the base. Says she's the one who stood by him. Whatever that means. Colleen didn't move. Her gaze remained locked on the plaque. Funny thing, the man continued, scratching his chin. You two must have been real close for your name to be up there once. She stood slowly, brushed the dew from her coat. We were, she said quietly. But some people rewrite history when no one's watching. The man looked uneasy. You want me to call someone? Get it re-etched? She shook her head. Number, let it stay. He nodded and wandered off, boots crunching softly as the fog swallowed him again. Colleen reached into her coat and pulled out a small cloth. She began wiping the headstone, slow and methodical, until it gleamed. Her hands moved with reverence, but her face was unreadable. Then she stood and stepped back. Her eyes locked onto the final line etched below the names. To the daughters who never gave up on him. Her lips barely moved. He gave up on me. A long pause. Then she pulled out her phone. Her thumb hovered over a contact labeled only with a single letter. C. She typed, It's time. I'm in, and hit send. Colleen enters a military base using high clearance ID. Soldiers salute. She's not just back, she's still active. The checkpoint gate buzzed, then slid open with a mechanical groan. Armed guards straightened as Colleen passed through, their expressions shifting from suspicion to sharp recognition. The ID badge clipped to her jacket bore a black stripe. Tier 5 clearance, not something anyone faked. Ma'am, one soldier said, offering a crisp salute. Colleen returned it without breaking stride. The base sprawled across the foothills like a quiet machine. Orderly buildings, narrow corridors, reinforced hangars. A thin October wind pushed against her as she moved between units, boots striking concrete with practiced rhythm. The security camera above every door swiveled to track her. None stopped her. Inside, fluorescent lights flickered overhead. Her presence didn't trigger whispers, only straightened backs and half-held breaths. The badge said enough. Down a corridor lined with digital locks, she reached the secure room labeled Command Node 4A. A tech analyst, young, twitchy, opened the door with a retinal scan. Welcome back, Director Walsh, he muttered. She didn't respond. She stepped into the room where glowing screens lined every wall. Maps, encrypted feeds, dossiers. And in the center, a single folder resting on a steel desk marked Family Connections, status, under review. Commander Harris sat beside it, mid-60s, salt and pepper beard, the kind of man who spoke softly because he never needed to raise his voice. He didn't stand when Colleen entered, but he nodded with quiet gravity. It's been a long time, he said. Colleen removed her coat. Beneath it, her uniform was immaculate. The insignia on her collar shimmered faintly. Intelligence Command, Cyber Ops Division. I needed to see it for myself, she said. Harris tapped the file. We flagged activity last quarter. Your name's showing up again. In places it shouldn't. She scanned the first page. Donor lists. Shell companies. A consulting firm in D.C. registered under your social number, but with a different birth date. Colleen frowned. Erica? Possibly, or someone feeding her. He leaned back. This isn't just a family feud anymore. Someone's using you as a ghost signature. If it wasn't personal before, it is now. A tech specialist appeared at the doorway. The archive's ready, ma'am. Colleen followed him down another corridor, tighter, colder. At the end stood a vault door with a scanner embedded in the wall. She placed her palm flat against the panel. It lit green. Access granted. The room inside was smaller. No screens, no chatter. Just a single terminal and a boxy hard drive connected to a secure network. She keyed in her code manually. User. Colleen W-475. Password. Asterisk asterisk. Asterisk 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 asterisk. Asterisk 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 asterisk. She scrolled past dozens of file names until she stopped on one. Operation Fall Cloak. Status: active. She tapped it. The file opened. A black and white photo of her family appeared on screen. Circa 1998. Their father in uniform. Erica smiling, arms crossed. Their mother posed and polished. And off to the side. Colleen, barely in frame, in mid-turn as if already walking away. Except now, her face was blurred. Colleen stared at the screen. It wasn't a glitch. The metadata was deliberate. The blur time-stamped just 6 months ago. Someone had accessed this, altered the archival record. She sat slowly. Her finger hovered over the keyboard. The room was silent, but her mind was already racing. If they'd blurred her out here, where else? Colleen returns to the family home under the pretense of offering an apology dinner. Everyone shows up. The house looked almost the same. Same white shutters, same creaking porch step, same worn brass doorknob Colleen once avoided touching just to spite her mother. The air smelled faintly of wood polish and memories. But tonight, everything was staged. The dining room gleamed under warm candlelight. The silverware was polished to a military shine. A roast sat steaming at the center of the table, flanked by wine glasses already filled. A placard at each seat spelled out names in cursive ink: Erica, Mom, Uncle Ron, Andrew. And one simply, Colleen. She adjusted the sleeves of her soft gray blouse, no uniform tonight, and placed the last dish down. The air was still, almost too still. Footsteps echoed from the hallway. "Smell deliberate," Erica announced, walking in first in heels and confidence. Her hair was perfectly curled and her smirk sharp enough to cut the roast. Behind her, Andrew, her fiancé, nodded coolly. No smile. Mrs. Walsh followed, chin high, eyes already scanning for flaws. And then Uncle Ron. Stooped, mustache twitching with half-restrained commentary. Colleen greeted them each with a smile. Not warm, not cold, just measured. "I wanted to make amends," she said softly. "We've all had misunderstandings." Erica scoffed. "Is that what they call disappearing now?" Colleen pulled out a chair. "Let's eat." The meal began civil. Too civil. The kind of civility that hummed with tension under the surface. Erica tapped her fork like a metronome. Mrs. Walsh cut silently, barely lifting her eyes. Andrew offered brief remarks about his firm, his voice clipped. Uncle Ron poured more wine. "So," Colleen said lightly as she spooned potatoes, "how's the family business going?" "I hear the foundation's funding expanded last year." Erica raised a brow. "We do what we can for veterans, unlike some." Mrs. Walsh's knife clinked against the plate. "I was deployed at the time," Colleen said, voice even. "We were deep cover in Eastern Europe. Prague, actually." There was a brief, flickering silence. Andrew sipped his wine. Mrs. Walsh looked away. And then Uncle Ron spoke, half drunk, wholly unaware. "They said you died in Prague." The table froze. Erica shot him a look, sharp and fast. "What?" Colleen's fork paused halfway to her mouth. Ron blinked. "What?" "That's what someone told me years ago. Some guy at the Legion. Said she went MIA, presumed KIA. Prague, 2006, Mrs. Walsh pressed a napkin to her mouth. "That's ridiculous." "Is it?" Colleen set her fork down with a soft clink. Her voice was calm, but her gaze locked on each of them. "Funny how specific that is." Erica leaned back. "Don't start with your cloak and dagger drama." "I'm not starting anything," Colleen said with a small smile. "Just listening. People say interesting things when they think the past is buried." She reached for her wine glass, sipped, and looked at Uncle Ron again. "Who exactly told you that, Uncle?" He squinted. "Hell if I remember. Some vet from your dad's old unit, maybe. Or a reporter?" "They knew your name, though. Knew what you looked like." Colleen tilted her head. "And did they say what happened to the body?" Andrew shifted in his seat. Erica said nothing. Mrs. Walsh finally broke in. "This is not dinner conversation." Colleen nodded. "You're right, it's not. It's post-dinner conversation. The kind you have when the truth has been simmering longer than the roast." She stood slowly. Her voice dropped a note, intimate but razor sharp. You've been talking to someone you shouldn't have. In a shadowed war room, Colleen lays out her plan. Not for battle, but for exposure. The war room was quieter at night, cloaked in dim red lighting and the faint hum of cooling fans. Screens lined the walls like artificial windows into the world's unseen currents. Data pulses, surveillance grids, classified feeds threading across continents. In this dark belly of the base, the atmosphere felt more sacred than strategic. Colleen stood at the head of the main table, sleeves rolled up, eyes sharper than the glow of the monitors behind her. A large touch display in front of her showed a branching map of digital footprints, emails, pings, message trails. Each node pulsed faintly like a heartbeat. Tech Sergeant Diaz hunched over a terminal nearby, his fingers moving with surgical speed. A former hacker turned cyber specialist, Diaz had little interest in politics, but he respected two things: encryption and Colleen Walsh. She uses two phones, Diaz said without turning around. One for public-facing business, clean, but the other... He pulled up a stream of messages, some archived, some redacted, others recently restored from fragments. Has been talking to this. He pointed at a glowing dot on the far end of the screen. Shell Corp based in Malta, registered 2 years ago, run by someone with a Russian IP masked 3 times. Erica's messages began 9 months ago. Colleen's jaw tensed. What was she sending? Encrypted text packets. Not enough for full files, just metadata. But recurring, patterned. She leaned in. What was she offering? Diaz shrugged. Can't tell yet. Could be personnel lists, could be internal memos. But they're linked to federal grants. Her company's been subcontracted through a defense contractor in D.C., one we flagged last year. Colleen turned to the digital board and tapped a branch. A photo of Andrew, Erica's fiancé, popped up, smiling in a corporate suit. Andrew McConnell, she said aloud. Senior legal counsel for Belridge Technologies, access to procurement records. Diaz nodded. And just yesterday, he received a call from a contact that matches a burner phone in Brussels. You know what Brussels means, right? Blacklisting territory, Colleen said softly. And intelligence wash zones. The door opened quietly, and Commander Harris stepped in. He looked between the two of them and exhaled, the kind of breath that knew too much. You're certain now? He asked. Colleen didn't answer immediately. She stared at the map of tangled lines, at the dots flickering between her family's name and shady actors abroad. She nodded once. Harris approached slowly. If you do this, you risk pulling Erica into a federal net. This stops being about betrayal and becomes prosecution. You prepared for that? Colleen didn't look away. I'm not doing this for revenge. Then what? He asked quietly. She tapped the screen, highlighting a transfer from Erica's second phone to the Malta Shell Corp. The timestamp matched the date of her father's funeral. She thinks she's protecting his legacy, Colleen said. She doesn't even know she's being used. Colleen sends Erica a cryptic envelope with just a single photo inside. A blurred surveillance still of Erica and her fiancé. The wind clawed at the windows of the high-rise office, gusts dragging dry leaves across the glass in flurries of rustling sound. Inside, Erica's sleek corner suite remained pristine. Glass table untouched by clutter, her awards neatly arranged, her assistant humming just outside. But on her desk, an envelope sat alone, unmarked but weighty with implication. She hadn't noticed it that morning. No return address, no postage, just her name scrawled in careful cursive on thick ivory paper. Something about it immediately tightened the air in her chest. She opened it carefully, cautious not to tear the edges. Inside, a single photograph. No note, no explanation. A grainy image, dark but clear enough to make her breath catch. It showed her, Erica, standing close to Andrew in what looked like a parking garage. Her face partially turned, his expression unreadable. The timestamp was 3 weeks old. Her fingers clenched around the edges. Her eyes darted to the frosted glass door of her office. "Melanie?" she called. Her assistant appeared instantly. "Yes, Ms. Walsh." "Did someone bring this envelope in?" Melanie frowned. "I thought it was internal, maybe from legal. It was already on your desk when I got in." Erica nodded curtly, waved her off. "Thanks." As the door clicked shut again, she turned the photo over. Nothing. Just clean cardstock. She stood and walked to the window, the city sprawling beneath her in early afternoon haze. Her phone buzzed in her hand. Andrew. She answered quickly, trying to keep her voice flat. "Hey. Everything okay?" he asked. There was something about his tone, something guarded. Erica hesitated. "Did you tell anyone where we were last month? That parking deck near the docks?" He paused. "Number why?" "Because someone took a photo of us and mailed it to me." A silence. Then, "Are you sure she's alive?" Erica's heart skipped. She turned slowly from the window. "What did you say?" "Colleen," he said carefully. "You're not imagining this, right? She's not some ghost you're chasing?" "I saw her," Erica hissed. "She was at the dinner. She's real." Andrew's voice tightened. "Then this is her. She's playing you." Erica ended the call without another word. Half a city away, in a subterranean command room, Colleen watched the surveillance feed as Erica slammed the phone down, her hands trembling before she quickly composed herself. Diaz glanced up from his terminal, smirking. "Spooked her good." Colleen didn't smile. She leaned back in her chair, gaze cold. "Now we watch who runs." That evening, Erica pulled into the old Walsh estate, her tires crunching on familiar gravel. She didn't knock, just walked in, found her mother in the parlor watching the news with the sound turned low. "Where is she?" Erica snapped. Mrs. Walsh didn't look up. "Who?" "You know damn well who. Colleen. You said she was gone. Dead. Buried." Her voice cracked. "You said she never came back from Prague." Her mother finally turned to face her, her expression unreadable. "I buried an empty coffin," she said softly, "and I never forgave her for that." Colleen walks into the Walsh family board meeting, legally authorized, with a controlling interest. The glass doors hissed open at precisely 9 o'clock. Every head around the long obsidian table turned, some in confusion, others in disbelief. Erica's lips parted slightly, just enough for the blood to drain from her face. Colleen stepped in, her heels silent on the marble, a leather folio in hand. She wore a tailored charcoal blazer, a military-cut blouse beneath. There was no insignia this time, no medals, just posture, controlled, regal, commanding. Mr. Calder, the trust's legal executive, rose awkwardly from his seat. "Ms. Walsh, this meeting is closed to non—" "I'm not a guest," Colleen said, laying a set of documents on the table. Per the Walsh Family Trust Agreement, specifically Articles 3C and 4D, control of voting shares reverts to the designated proxy upon the death of the senior trustee. She met Erica's gaze. "Dad left me his shares. All of them." A hush fell. One of the board members, Aunt May, gray-haired and usually silent, blinked. "That can't be," he said. Colleen tapped the folio. "He said a lot of things. He also filed this change in 2018, witnessed and notarized." Erica stood, her voice too sweet. "This is absurd. You haven't been part of this family for 2 decades. You don't know how we run things." "I know enough to request a full forensic audit of all transactions linked to your fiancé's defense consultancy," Colleen replied smoothly. "Starting with Project Kestrel, then Operation Vortex." The name alone sent a ripple through the room. Some glanced at one another. One of the uncles leaned forward, suddenly pale. "What's Operation Vortex?" someone asked. Colleen didn't answer. She watched Erica instead. Erica gave a small laugh, but her hands were stiff on the table's edge. This is harassment. You think you can just come back from the dead and turn this into some kind of military tribunal? Colleen opened another file. Do any of you know what Operation Vortex is? Because your signatures are on it. Contracts, routing numbers, transfers to shell corporations, all tied to Erica's fiancé. Mr. Calder cleared his throat. We'll need to pause proceedings until we consult outside counsel. You can pause, Colleen said, but the federal inquiry won't. Erica slammed a folder shut and hurled it across the table. Papers fanned out midair before skimming the glass surface and landing at Colleen's feet. You don't get to walk in here after 20 years and play judge. Colleen picked up the folder calmly, leafed through a few pages, and looked back at her sister. Number I walk in because no one else will. ChatGPT Jun Noi. Muagyat man sang ngang kwa so van fong hep, gyo rung rit kach okwa nhumot ting trong sanchbao. Inside, fluorescent lights buzzed low overhead, sterile and clinical, a fitting backdrop to the ambush unfolding across the desk. Colleen sat rigid in a high-backed chair, hands clasped tightly over one knee. She'd faced hostile fire, encrypted blackmail, and insurgent cells with steadier breath. But this was rot from within. Major Lane, a compact woman with hair pulled taut into a bun, flipped through a slim manila folder. She didn't look up. Colonel Walsh, she said evenly, a complaint has been filed with the Joint Ethics Oversight, dated yesterday. Pertains to alleged breaches of Geneva Code Section 3 during your operation in Prague. 2006 Colleen's nostrils flared. That mission was sealed. No civilian access. No survivors besides my unit. Not anymore, Lane replied, finally meeting her eyes. Someone's talking. And someone's providing footage. Redacted images, heavily compressed metadata, but authentic. Harris paced behind Lane's chair. Unlike his usual detachment, his jaw was clenched, steps restless. Do you have any idea who'd reopened something that classified? I've got guesses, Colleen said, voice like steel. But this reeks of outside hands. Erica may be petty, but she doesn't even know what happened in Prague. She only knows what she's been told. Lane leaned back. The complaint came from a lobbying group. Citadel Strategies. You familiar? Colleen's breath caught. She'd seen that name tucked deep in procurement trails linked to Erica's fiancé. It was a defense shell firm. She didn't have the evidence yet. But the pattern was there. Harris walked to the window, arms crossed. Colleen, if this goes public before we can contain it, you're not just risking your family's name. You'll lose your pension, your clearance, everything. She rose slowly. They're not just erasing me from my family, she said, voice low but shaking now. They're trying to erase me from history. Lane watched her for a long beat before quietly saying, We'll do our part. But your window is closing. By late evening, the rain had eased to a drizzle. The storm, it seemed, had only moved indoors. Colleen returned to her quarters in silence, boots echoing down linoleum halls. A brown envelope sat in her mailbox. No return address. Inside, a flash drive. Nothing else. She booted her encrypted laptop, closed the blinds, and plugged it in. The folder contained a single video file. Time-stamped, October 12th, 2006. Prague, dust, rubble, a dark alley corner. Then a voice. Her voice. Get the child out of the blast radius. I'll take rear. She froze. The footage wasn't doctored. It was raw. It showed her dragging a wounded man to cover as gunfire erupted behind her. At one point, she shielded a teenage girl with her own body as mortar dust rained down. Who had this? And why now? There was one truth in this world Colleen Walsh had never dared to say aloud, but it pulsed now in her ears like blood against steel. Someone wanted her gone for good, and someone else just gave her a lifeline. The audio file was barely over 3 minutes long, but each second dropped like a hammer. In the dim-lit archive room beneath the command base, walls lined with steel shelves and forgotten secrets, Colleen sat in silence, eyes fixed on the waveform dancing across her laptop screen. Harris leaned against the doorway, arms crossed, unmoving. A faint buzz came from the antiquated fluorescent tubes overhead, but otherwise the silence hung thick. Then the voice cut in. If her sister ever resurfaces, she's a liability. Not just to you, but to the contract. It was him, Erica's fiancé. His tone slick, measured, businesslike, as if he were discussing a vendor issue, not a human life. The rest of the recording was a garbled exchange. Low voices, coded phrases, and at the end, a muffled laugh. Colleen's jaw clenched. "Timestamp it," she said. Her hidden ally, a former military voice analyst named Jules, sat across from her, headphones still on, nodding slowly. Verified. Prague. The background chatter lines up with old comm logs. That's your guy. That's Erica's firm. And this was recorded weeks before the first accusation against you was ever filed. Harris exhaled through his nose. You've got him. But what do you want to do with it? Colleen didn't answer at first. Her gaze dropped to her father's ring, now resting in her palm, worn and dulled. She'd found it tucked inside the flash drive envelope. Someone wanted her to fight back, but not just with facts, with meaning. She opened a fresh document and began typing. A formal exoneration memo, addressed to the Ethics Board and Military Judiciary, citing audio evidence, sourced validation, and timeline inconsistencies. It was clinical, undeniable. When she hit send, it wasn't just a document. It was the first stone thrown back. Outside, dusk had begun to slip into Thanksgiving Eve. In towns across the country, families gathered to prep turkey, hang lights, laugh over old stories. But inside the Walsh family's candlelit ancestral church, long decommissioned, now rented for events, Colleen stood alone in full dress uniform. The vaulted ceiling loomed above, high and shadowed. Her footsteps echoed softly over the marble floor as she passed old pews and forgotten hymn books. This was the church her parents had married in, where baptisms had been held, where her father's memorial would have been, if she'd been allowed inside that day. She placed a folded letter on the pulpit. To the sister who forgot me. It was addressed to Erica, but there was no signature. Then she sent the audio. No message, just the file. Across town, Erica sat at her vanity, applying lipstick before the Thanksgiving gala. Her phone buzzed. She tapped the screen. The voice. Her fiancé. His words. Each one cracked the air like glass. Her hands dropped. The lipstick fell, rolling along the floor. In the background, a clock ticked. Her breath came shallow. No. She played it again. And again. Then the door creaked. Her mother stepped in. Are you ready? Erica stared at her blankly, still gripping the phone. Mom, she whispered. Did you know about this? Mrs. Walsh frowned. About what? Erica turned the screen toward her, but couldn't press play. Nothing, she murmured instead. I'll be down soon. Meanwhile, under vaulted lights and rows of polished tables, the Veterans Gala was in full swing. Brass pins glinted, medals caught warm yellow light. Murmurs passed between generals and widows and soldiers, both scarred and smiling. A host tapped the microphone. Tonight, we're honored to welcome back one of our own. The doors opened. Colleen stepped into the light, uniform pressed sharp, ribbons gleaming, eyes turned, murmurs rose. And in that moment, the sister they tried to erase became impossible to ignore. At the Veterans Gala, the MC read aloud, "Tonight we honor General Colleen Walsh." The room stood still for a heartbeat. Then came the rising sound of applause, tentative at first, then building like a slow tide. Dress uniforms gleamed beneath chandeliers. Rows of brass pins reflected golden light across the formal ballroom. The stage was flanked by American flags, and at its center, a podium carved from dark mahogany stood waiting. Colleen stepped forward. She wasn't smiling. Her face was composed, almost unreadable, yet the sharp line of her jaw, the steady gait, the precise nod to the color guard said everything. It had been 2 decades since she'd worn the full regalia in public, and yet, in this moment, she fit it like a second skin. Near the back of the hall, Erica stood frozen. Her fiancé whispered something into her ear, but she didn't respond. The lights, the cameras, none of it had prepared her for this. Colleen had not only returned, she was being celebrated. The MC continued. For decades of service, countless classified contributions, and a courage known to only a few until now, we welcome home a soldier, a leader, General Colleen Walsh. The applause roared again. Colleen approached the podium. A military official handed her the microphone. She took it slowly, then faced the crowd. Uniformed officers, widows, state senators, and at least 3 news crews. "Good evening," she began. Her voice carried, not loud but clear. "I've been gone for a while. Some thought I vanished. Others said I was a ghost. Some stories get rewritten when no one is watching." She paused. "Tonight, we write mine." The room held its breath. "I don't stand here for praise. I stand here for truth. For every name erased from dinner tables and family portraits because they chose duty over comfort. Because silence was easier than complexity. Because loyalty isn't always mutual." Her gaze didn't seek Erica, but it landed on her anyway. "I thank those who remembered, even when it was inconvenient. And I forgive those who didn't, because I remember who I am. And I'm done letting anyone else decide." She stepped back. A standing ovation followed. Not forced, not polite, earned. Erica's hands trembled slightly as the crowd surged to their feet. Flashes went off. One journalist turned her way, voice sharp through the hum of clapping. "Ms. Walsh, didn't you once say your sister was dishonorably discharged?" The question was like a blade. Heads turned. Erica blinked. Her lips moved, but no sound came. Another flash, then another, and suddenly the walls felt closer. The lights too hot, the whispers louder than the applause. She turned and walked briskly out of the ballroom, her fiancé trailing behind. Cameras followed like wolves scenting blood. Colleen, meanwhile, accepted her medal with no visible triumph. Just gravity, poise. But inside, somewhere deeper than memory or pride, she knew. This was the moment they could no longer deny her existence. The world saw her now. Rain hammered against the floor-to-ceiling windows, a steady drumming that filled the silence in the sleek designer kitchen. Erica stood by the counter, arms crossed tightly, her phone still glowing in her hand. Her fiancé, Leon, leaned casually against the marble island, tie loosened, an untouched espresso growing cold by his elbow. "Did you use me to get to her?" Erica's voice cut through the storm like a blade. Leon didn't look up right away. "What are you talking about?" "You know exactly what," she said, stepping closer. Her hand trembled slightly as she pulled up the voice memo. "This." She hit play. "If her sister ever resurfaces, she's a liability." His own voice spilled into the room, smooth and confident. Indifferent, even. Like none of it mattered. Leon's expression didn't flinch. Not right away. He just reached for his cup, sipped, then looked at her with a detached calm. "You misunderstood. You called her a liability," Erica said, her breath shallow. "You knew where she was. You knew what she meant to my family. To me?" Leon shrugged. "I work in security contracting. We assess threats. She had a classified past, no contact with your family, an unknown agenda." "Don't," Erica snapped, her voice breaking. "Don't spin this. You used me." He set the cup down carefully. "You want to believe your sister's some returning hero? Fine. But ask yourself, why'd she wait until now? Why not reach out earlier?" "I told the world she was a disgrace," Erica whispered. "I buried an empty coffin." Leon moved toward her. His voice dropped. "Then maybe she's playing you, just like she played the army." Erica backed away. Her phone buzzed again. News updates, headlines about the gala, the speech, the photos. The truth was everywhere now. "You're scared," Leon said, his voice tightening. "Because if she wins this, you lose everything. Your reputation, the firm, your entire identity is tied to being the Walsh who stayed. She's rewriting that." "No," Erica said. "I'm not scared of her. I'm scared of what I became to keep you happy." For a moment, the mask dropped. Leon's eyes sharpened. "You need to stop talking. If you go to anyone with this, you'll regret it." Erica stared at him, then turned and walked into the hallway. He didn't follow. She picked up the house phone, hands shaking slightly, and dialed. "Department of Military Integrity. Whistleblower hotline." A voice answered. "I have information," Erica said, her voice barely above a whisper, "about a contractor and classified leaks." She left the apartment that night with only a small suitcase and her wallet. As the elevator descended, the weight on her chest lightened. Not completely, but enough to breathe. Outside, the rain poured as if the sky itself needed to cleanse something. She wandered for hours, past familiar shops, old offices, the diner where her father used to take them on Saturdays. Her reflection stared back at her from the puddles. Flawless makeup smudged, eyes ringed with guilt. She sat on a park bench until dawn, clutching a scarf Colleen had once knitted her in high school. A faded, ridiculous thing she'd kept for some reason. The memory came back fast. Erica being shoved in a school hallway, books scattered. And Colleen, just 14, stepping in, fists clenched, jaw squared, telling the boys, "You touch her again, I'll make you regret it." Erica had never thanked her. She had simply accepted it, expected it. Now, she sobbed quietly, knees tucked to her chest, the scarf damp and clinging to her fingers. By morning, she'd made her way back to her apartment building. Not inside, just to the lobby. And there, waiting, was a uniformed officer, clipboard in hand. "Ms. Walsh?" he asked gently. She blinked, stood upright slowly. "Yes?" He glanced at the paper, then met her gaze. "You've been named as a witness in an ongoing federal investigation. We'll need your cooperation." Erica nodded. Her voice cracked as she whispered, "I'll do whatever it takes." Colleen stood beneath the tall arched windows of the tribunal chamber, the weak winter light streaming in behind her, casting long shadows across the paneled walls. 3 judges sat elevated behind a wide desk, one in his 60s with steel gray hair and a rigid expression, the other 2 younger but no less watchful. The room was silent, save for the soft scratch of a pen and the ticking of the wall clock. She wore her full uniform, every ribbon, every bar meticulously aligned. "General Walsh," the presiding officer began, "you've been summoned to answer claims stemming from your deployment to Prague, claims that, until recently, were classified." Colleen met his gaze. "Yes, sir." "Do you have prepared documentation?" "I do." She stepped forward, handing over a sealed folder. Years of time-stamped logs, encrypted communication records, mission briefs. The presiding judge flipped through a few pages, pausing at the memo signed by a now-deceased intelligence officer whose name still carried weight. "I'll begin with the mission report," Colleen said, her voice level, practiced. "It was called Fall Cloak. We were instructed to intervene in a weapons handoff that implicated private contractors, including American personnel. I refused to falsify outcomes, and for that, I was listed as non-cooperative by a particular group, who later funneled false charges to military review boards." The courtroom remained still. "I did not abandon my unit. I did not violate chain of command. And I certainly didn't commit war crimes." The youngest judge leaned forward. "Then how did this file make it into the system?" Colleen paused, then pressed play on the tablet in front of her. Leon's voice filled the chamber. "If her sister ever resurfaces, she's a liability. Her past can be used. The tribunal's full of people willing to believe what they're told." When the clip ended, a hush fell again. The sound was undeniable. "Who submitted this?" the senior judge asked. Before Colleen could answer, the chamber doors creaked open. Footsteps echoed across the floor. Erica stood at the threshold. No makeup. Simple coat. She walked slowly, head high, despite the weight in her eyes. "I did," she said. The judges turned. Colleen didn't move. Erica took a deep breath. "I was manipulated. I was fed information meant to hurt her, to make me believe she'd abandoned us. I believed it because I wanted to, because hating her made my life easier. But I was wrong, and she was telling the truth." She looked directly at Colleen. She always was. Colleen didn't respond, but her fingers relaxed slightly at her sides. The panel exchanged a few quiet words, papers shuffled, and finally the presiding judge spoke. "The tribunal finds no grounds for the accusations brought forth. All charges are hereby struck from record. Furthermore," his eyes lifted to Colleen, softening. "Just barely. The Army owes General Walsh an apology, 20 years overdue." Colleen gave a single nod. She didn't smile, but something unspoken settled into the room. A weight lifted. Outside, snow had begun to fall. The stone steps outside the tribunal were slick, but she stood steady, coat buttoned up, breath misting in the air. The courtyard was mostly empty, save for one figure walking toward her slowly. Erica. They stopped a few feet apart. "I was wrong," Erica said softly, voice catching. "And you were better than all of us." For a moment, Colleen didn't answer. Then she simply said, "I didn't want to be." Erica blinked. Colleen's gaze held hers. "But someone had to be." Colleen stood at the gate of the Walsh home, the metal cold beneath her fingers. The yard was overgrown now, ivy climbing the fence, the paint peeling in soft curls from the porch rails. Late afternoon light slanted across the roof, casting the house in gold that didn't quite reach warmth. She stepped through the creaking door, boots brushing against the old welcome mat still printed with their last name. Inside, everything was too quiet. The grandfather clock no longer ticked. The air smelled faintly of mothballs and lavender. On the hallway wall, family portraits hung in a solemn line. Her father, stiff in uniform. Erica, grinning at a high school podium. Her mother, arms crossed in a rare moment of candid laughter. And there, between two frames once blank, was a new photo. Colleen, in uniform, pressed and poised, a face no longer missing. She walked past the pictures without stopping. Her footsteps barely echoed as she made her way to the back room. Mrs. Walsh sat in an armchair by the window, wrapped in a blanket, looking smaller than Colleen remembered. Her once imposing posture had softened into age. She turned as the door opened, her expression unreadable. "You came alone," she said after a long pause. "I didn't need anyone else," Colleen replied. They stared at each other, two women who'd shared blood but little else for 20 years. "I saw the gala," her mother said. "And the tribunal. They all cheered for you." Colleen nodded once. "They saw the truth. That's all I wanted." Silence fell again. Her mother's fingers clutched the blanket. "You still blame me." Colleen took a step closer, voice calm but firm. "I don't blame you. I see you. And I understand something now. That pride can be a prison just like grief. But it cost you both daughters when you chose it over truth." Mrs. Walsh's mouth tightened. "I didn't know how to fix it." "You didn't try," Colleen answered gently. "That's what broke it." A long exhale trembled from her mother's chest. She didn't weep. She didn't apologize. But her shoulders sagged as if the weight had finally named itself. Colleen reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. She placed it on the side table next to the armchair. Inside was a medal. Not a medal of valor, not for show, but a quiet commendation given after a mission that never made the news. She didn't open it, didn't explain it, just left it there. "I'm not leaving this as a symbol," she said. "Just a reminder that I existed, that I still do." She turned to go. As she stepped into the hallway, Erica appeared, leaning against the frame of the kitchen doorway. No makeup, eyes tired but clear. She didn't say anything, just watched. Colleen paused briefly, then walked past her, down the front steps, out into the cooling air. Leaves rustled in the wind. A crow called from somewhere beyond the yard. She was almost to her car when a voice called after her. Don't disappear again. Colleen turned. Erica stood on the porch, arms crossed tight against the chill, but no longer defensive. Colleen didn't answer. She gave a faint nod. Acknowledgement, not promise. Then she opened the car door, got in, and drove away from the house that had once been hers. Not as a daughter looking for place, but as a woman who had already found it elsewhere. In the quiet hum of morning, Colleen stood in front of a whiteboard scrawled with words like resilience, integrity, and reconstruction. Around her, half a dozen women, some barely 20, others seasoned and silent, watched as she circled one word in red. Truth. This, she said, her voice low and even, is what they'll try to take first. When the chaos starts, truth is the first casualty. Don't let it go easily. A young woman with cropped hair and nervous eyes raised her hand. But what if no one believes you? Colleen gave a faint smile, one that didn't reach her eyes. You don't tell the truth for them. You tell it for you. And sometimes, it takes years to catch up. Laughter stirred quietly among the group. Not mockery, just the kind that comes from knowing exactly what she meant. Outside the community center, fall leaves scattered along the sidewalk. A service dog waited patiently at the door. This place didn't smell like antiseptic or paperwork. It smelled like coffee, like effort, like new chances. Colleen collected the training materials, her routine deliberate. Gone were the stares, the salutes, the articles. She'd declined every interview after the tribunal. When publishers came calling, she told them she wasn't interested. But then, someone submitted her name for a civilian leadership award, and it snowballed again. Still, no cameras came here. That was by design. Her office at the end of the hall was small. Just a desk, a shelf, and a battered file cabinet. On the windowsill, a single photo frame faced outward. The original picture had been taken decades ago. Colleen and Erica as kids, standing beneath a maple tree, one holding a toy sword, the other a book. Colleen's face had once been scratched out. Now it was penciled back in. She didn't ask who had sent it, but the handwriting on the envelope was Erica's. The letter that came with it lay folded neatly in a drawer. No flowery apology. Just 5 lines. I should have stood beside you. I should have asked the right questions. I'm sorry for burying a version of you I didn't understand. This time, I'll be the one to remember you correctly. I hope that's enough. E. Colleen hadn't replied. She hadn't torn it up either. She closed the drawer slowly. Not forgotten. Just finished. The knock at her door came soft. Ma'am? We've got 2 more recruits arriving. Colleen rose, nodded, and followed the assistant out. As she walked down the hallway, her boots made the faintest thud against the polished tile. Each step steady, grounded. She didn't need a rank to stand tall anymore. She carried it differently now. One of the new arrivals looked up as Colleen approached. The girl stood awkwardly, holding a duffel, a fractured look behind her smile. Hi, Colleen said, extending her hand. Welcome. You're not alone. The girl hesitated, then took her hand, eyes welling slightly. Thanks. I heard you've been through worse. Colleen's smile was softer this time. Maybe, or maybe I just remember it better. Outside, the wind picked up, scattering leaves against the door. That night in her apartment, Colleen brewed tea and sat with the silence. On her kitchen table sat an advance copy of a book. Its title, embossed in silver, The General They Erased. She hadn't written it, but she'd lived it. There were many kinds of war, some waged in deserts, some in memory, some in living rooms where silence screamed louder than sirens. But the quiet ones, the ones fought in the shadows of legacy and lies, were always the hardest to survive. She closed her eyes, let the steam warm her face, and breathed deeply. For the first time in 2 decades, peace didn't feel like absence. It felt like presence. For years, they erased her name, her honor, and her story, until she came back not for revenge, but for truth. In the end, it wasn't a courtroom or a medal that redeemed her, but the quiet courage to face those who betrayed her and still choose dignity. Justice doesn't always arrive with thunder. Sometimes it walks in calmly, dressed in the silence of a woman who never gave up. Like a buried truth finally unearthed, her story proved no wall of lies can stand forever against the tide of truth. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment below. Type 1 if you felt the justice was earned, or 2 if you wished for more.